Hi everyone, so I'm going to be talking about better integration for ACMS. So integration starts here, and today I'm going to be talking through new features aimed at more seamless working. So I'm going to be talking through wizards, a messaging solution for Bulletin, and self-assessment. So what is a wizard? A wizard is front-end integration, and it's aimed at addressing the phrase we often hear from customers: all the data is there, but there's a lot of clicking about. So a wizard will walk through a process in a structured way, so you can fill in data behind the scenes and make sure nothing is missed. So over the years, we've introduced a number of different wizards. We have the role wizard for creating new role records. We have the resource wizard for assigning role resources. The check wizard for scheduling custom checks. The bulletin wizard for creating bulletins. The candidate schedules wizard for bulk assigning schedules to candidates. And we now want to introduce the leaving wizard, which is scheduled for 523D. So what was the reasoning behind this? So a couple of weeks ago, Brian Noble showed me on his desktop a post-it note, which lists all the different tasks you have to complete in order to retire a driver. So the driver manager has to close the current schedule, complete the role, issue the driver transfer form, etc. And then this is the list of all the things the operations standards have to do. So they have to withdraw the safety critical work certificate, the ID cards, remove user access, etc. So all of these tasks are necessary in order to retire a driver or a candidate, and it involves a lot of clicking about. So we thought this would be an ideal candidate for developing a wizard. So we created the leaving wizard. And this is designed to simplify the process of retiring a candidate in ACMS. As with other wizards, it will take you through a series of steps to ensure that the candidate is removed from all aspects of the system. It's enabled on a security group basis, and it's going to sit on the candidate dashboard. So just below the face pick, you'll have a personnel leaving button. So the leaving wizard follows a pretty similar format to other wizards. This is the first screen you would come to, and from here you can disable the personnel record and remove user access. But as I said, it will take you through all the necessary tasks. So you can retire the personnel record, remove candidates from teams, close incomplete schedules. And as you're going through, the wizard will complete different checks. So for example, it will check if there are any draft assessments. Now, the wizard is limited to a certain extent, so if there are draft assessments, you'd have to come out of the wizard and find the assigned assessor and get them to complete the assessments, but then you can go back in and continue the retirement. You can retire role records, end incapacities, withdraw licenses, withdraw ID cards, remove candidates from audiences, and withdraw any unread bulletins which require signature. So the list of steps that you'll be taken through depends on what modules you have activated on your system. And once you go through all those steps, you'll come to a summary page, and this will highlight any of the information that you've changed. And once you hit finish, you can feel confident that you're not going to get a retired candidate popping up on any reports. And this can give you the confidence to delegate this responsibility. So we'd like to extend this UI improvement to other processes within the system, and we've had a few ideas about where we could implement this. The first was a CDP schedule wizard, so you could add a CDP schedule to a candidate. This would take you through adding the non-CMS schedule, as well as scheduling the CMS events, and entering any comments and notes. The next one we thought about was a cause wizard for adding causes to investigations. And this will have some detailed guidance about what needs to be added. And also an off-track wizard. And this will help you take a person off track. It will take you through ending incapacities and suspending ID cards. So we would like to get your opinion on which wizards you would find useful. So this takes me to the first live poll. So if you go onto the app, you should have a polls button, and from there you'll see the question and you can give your response.
So while you're doing that, is this mic working? Yeah, while you're doing that, we've got some questions from the floor here. Justin Willett. I'm just going to read these out, so please don't anybody put any rude words in. We have developed a number of checklist/cheat sheets for a range of operational processes. So could these be converted into wizards or included in the training, etc.?
Yes, definitely. So in terms of training, if you do have checklists, that's something that we could definitely integrate into our training sessions when we do train company admins or assessors. In terms of wizards, that's stuff that if you guys propose what checklists you have, we can then discuss it as a team and bring it to a feature request meeting and scope out whether that is possible with the development team. Perfect. So we'd love suggestions.
This one's from Paul Apperfold. With the new levers wizard, there looks like there could be 2 stages, one for the DM and one for the op standards. Can the system alert op standards that the DM has done their bit?
So at the moment, it's a full series of steps, but that's something that we could definitely take into consideration for future development. For example, we could develop some notifications potentially, and maybe look at, as you say, if there are 2 separate stages, we could look at potentially separating it out. But yeah, again, that's something that we would have to talk with the team about.
Next question. In the leaving wizard, if there is I nearly said draft assessment. I haven't got my glasses on, sorry. What happens if the original assessor has already left the business, Alex Walker? Well, I'm going to take this one. Well, Alex Walker, all I can say to you is you should have retired the assessor properly. No, in all seriousness, an admin would have to get involved and resolve that. Last question, Andrew Taylor. Is Andrew in the room? I didn't see him arrive. He's online. Hi, Andrew. I'm missing you. Could a wizard be developed to replace the forms workbench, which is a bit clunky and unintuitive?
So that would be another rescope of the form workbench, but currently it almost works as a wizard, so it could be quite a good candidate for a wizard.
Yes, we could have a wizard on top of it, couldn't we? That started making a new form a bit easier. Cool. That's all the questions we have. Would you like the results of the live poll? So everybody likes retiring a candidate. There's a good amount of support. About 20% want a CDP adding wizard. Less interest in causes on investigations, and 20% for wanting off track. So we're pretty. I think you want all of those, don't you? Come on. Perfect.
Cool. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is a messaging solution for Bulletin. So this is going to be a way to distribute bulletins to phone devices without a candidate app. So candidates will still be able to download and read their bulletins, sign their bulletins, and also feedback, so state whether or not they've read it or if they've understood it. The process for admins will be exactly the same, so you can still issue, update, and withdraw bulletins. And I'm going to talk through the sign-up sequence and the bulletin receipt sequence. So the sign-up sequence will be triggered by the admin, and the user will receive a message. So something along the lines of sign up to the ACMS bulletin bot. Now, all of the message content can be configured. It's customizable through localization, but this is roughly the workflow. So then the candidate will respond to this message, and you'll start to message back and forth with the bot. When they first start using the messaging service, they'll be required to confirm their contact details for security reasons, so that we can check that those match the personnel record in ACMS. But there'll be a number of different ways that they can confirm their contact details. And then, you'll just start interacting with the bot. When a new bulletin is issued, the user will receive a download link. They can click on this and read their bulletins. And then they can interact. They can feed back about the bulletin. So it will be the same options set up in your ACMS. So I have not read it, I've read and understood, I've misunderstood. And they can respond, and they'll receive an acknowledgement message. So all of this information will be fed back to ACMS. So a couple of things to note. The process will be exactly the same for admins and also for candidates. And if a candidate isn't signed up to the messaging service, they can still continue to use a bulletin. So when a bulletin is withdrawn, the candidate will receive a message. As I said earlier, all messages are available for localization, so the message content can be changed to what you need. And this will work with a range of secure messaging platforms. So initially, this is going to be implemented with Telegram, but we can also extend this to Signal. We won't be implementing this with WhatsApp or SMS, as they are less secure platforms. And going forwards, this is going to be a key piece of infrastructure for ACMS, and Hannah's going to be talking a bit more about this later on. So are there any questions at all?
I've got one's come in from Paul Atherfold, who can't spell bulletin.
Sorry, boys. Oh, don't worry, Paul. I'll sort it out later.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. Can the activation code for a bulletin be switched off or done automatically when an update comes? Shall I take that? So it can't be switched off automatically for the app because the app wouldn't know which ACMS to point itself at without it, but you won't need it for this messaging solution. Does that help?
Can you stop updating the app?
I can't hear you. Can someone give him the mic?
He said, can you stop updating the app then, please?
I'll get right on that, sir. Okay, so we need to find a better answer. Noted. Do we have any more questions about messaging solution on the floor? If you stick your hand up, James or Pat will run over with a mic. No?
Okay. So a subject which has been equally welcomed and opposed is self-assessment. And whilst we recognise that this is an emotive subject, we do believe they have a place. So it's worth making a clear distinction between CMS and self-assessments. So ACMS is fundamentally designed to record CMS assessments, which are objective assessments to ensure candidates are competent in their safety critical role. Comparatively, self-assessments are subjective assessments which should not solely dictate whether a candidate is competent in their safety critical role. Now, whilst we acknowledge that there are potential pitfalls with self-assessments, it is worth noting that they can be a worthwhile process for not only the assessor, but also the business as a whole. And we recognise that there are differing standards with our customers, and we are keen to develop this into a configurable feature. So an example of customer which is going to be making use of self-assessments is Network Rail. And they're introducing a new competence plan for their station managers, whereby the majority of the assessments are going to be self-assessed. So, for example, they've got a criteria unit called Emergency Management and Incident Response, and within that they've got a criteria item, which is what is the purpose of cause testing, when should it be used, and what are the important points when implementing it. So the candidate would write down their response to these questions and then use the assigned level set to rate their confidence in their answer. So what are the benefits of self-assessment? Well, they provide an opportunity to self-reflect. Assessors are constantly assessing other people. This gives them a welcome break with that, and can be a really useful task. It also allows them to take ownership of their own competence, so they can identify areas in which they need to improve and request additional training. They also provide a valuable source of data, so they can be used as supplementary evidence for CMS assessments, but at a higher level they can also be used to identify gaps in learning and development. And they can also be used to track continuous personal development. So with those review items, you can use those to guide one-to-one sessions. But it is a balance. So what about irresponsible self-assessing? Well, of course, this is possible, but it'll be pretty clear on ACMS whether someone has completed a self-assessment. And what about assertion of competence? Well, referring back to the initial definition, they're subjective assessments, so it's not so much about assertion of competence, but rather ownership of your competence. And what about standardization? Well, that's not any different from CMS assessments. You can still use the same verification process to identify shortcomings. So who is this for? So currently it's possible for assessors to complete self-assessments on ACMS, but we would like to potentially open this feature up to candidates as well. And we'd like to know, what do you think of candidate self-assessment? And whilst you're answering that, please submit any questions as well.
Okay, I think some of you are still voting, but there's a clear pattern come out here. It's one of those really nice bathtub curve things. So 40% of the vote is for the middle option. Use it in combination with assessor-led assessments, but majority assessor-led. A couple of people think it's not a good idea altogether, and a couple of people would think that it should be a majority self-assessment, but otherwise it's pretty evenly spread, which is what we suspected. And this was candidate self-assessment. So on the whole, I would judge people are in favour of candidate self-assessment, but it needs to be used sparingly. Thank you.
Cool.
I haven't got any questions. You have to click to the next slide. Does anybody in the room have a question about self-assessment?